Rahimzadeh, God Almighty, it's a Sweat Equity podcast. Talking to you from the Toko Works office. I'm your host, Law Smith. We are doing this one as I had this interview recorded a little bit ago, I think a week ago. Trying to keep on that same schedule of just once a week. Trying to go every Thursday. Trying to keep that going. I know I haven't been great before, but doesn't mean we can't be great now, right? Before I bring you into the episode, download the Laughable app. It's this app. It's comedians are listed on this app. So the iTunes app sucks. Stitcher's not good either. All the other kind of podcast apps aren't very good. And I heard this talked about on the other comedy podcasts. Ours is kind of a mix of comedy and business, but more businessy than comedy, I guess. Business with dick jokes, as I like to say. But the Laughable app, basically, you can tag your favorite comedians like Law Smith, and you can follow whenever I go on another podcast. So it's a way to follow the guys you like, basically. If you have a comedian you really love, you love my buddy Matt Fernandez, and you want to tag him, and you want to see when he pops up on other podcasts, this will do it for you. So I'm surprised it's not on like the iTunes app or any of that, but I don't think they're giving any love. So download Laughable app. It's awesome. Highly recommend it. Looks good. Usually I don't trust stuff in the comedy world with in the app development area, but this one's pretty solid. So look for me. I think you got to follow me or tag me or whatever you got to do. You'll figure it out. You're smart. You got here, man. We're going to talk to Noah and Matt of SafeKeeping. It's an interesting kind of startup where they basically want to connect you with loved ones. Communication. There's a huge communication gap when you have someone in hospice care or you have someone in retirement community. And I was introduced to these fellows by my buddy Matty Ballgame, my old comedian buddy, that I guess who's helping these fellas along on the financial side, but didn't tell him he was a comedian. So shout out to him, doing the odd thing I'm doing, which is a little bit of comedy, a little bit of business, and a lot of mania, basically, in between the ears. As always, before we go into it, tell a friend about this podcast. Tell them what's up. Hey, I listen to Sweat Equity. This is a good thing to listen to. It's just motivation, or it's just interviews to kind of help you get through what you're doing. Because I feel like there's so many people that just want to get their own thing going, and I feel like 80% of my conversations surround entrepreneurial endeavors or startup ideas or just general motivation, which is really it's not an easy discipline to get on your own. So I listen to a bunch of stuff. Part of this podcast is keeping me sane, is having a conversation where I'm not looking at my phone or day-to-day thinking about day-to-day operations while having a conversation. So, we'll get right into it. Have fun. My record of video, trying to do a video call of it never starting on time is now. I'm still 100%. I don't know about y'all. It seems like you probably have to do a lot of video calls. I've never had one that's like everybody's. I'm not saying it because y'all are like you feel late or any of that. I'm saying like because it's just like there's always something wrong with Skype or Google Hangout or Join or how come all right, once y'all figure out this app, I think the next thing is to figure out this issue.
Right.
So I guess talk about, we got introduced through a buddy of mine, Matt. I don't know how a comedian buddy of mine, and him and I have stayed in touch because I guess we didn't realize this when we were bouncing around LA doing mics and stuff, 7 to 10 years ago. But I guess both of us were really business minded and had no idea, because it's not, when you're doing stand up, it's all like, when you start talking business, some people think you're not really doing any of the art part of it or doing the jokes or whatever. It's like, no, you could just, it's just like, we're into this, just like you'd be into muscle cars or something.
Right.
So, except this will make money. So we got introduced. How y'all know him?
Matt, go ahead.
Sure. Yeah. So, Chris Gardner, one of the associates at his firm, is a friend of mine from Evansville, Indiana, the southern tip of Indiana. And, basically, I was telling him how we're getting to the point where we're looking into raising a round of funding. And he was like, oh, really? Well, my mentor at Townley has been in investing venture capital and et cetera for, X amount of years, and has a lot of experience. Would love to connect you guys. And so Noah and I got connected to him and kind of hit it off. And he's really helped us kind of get our ducks aligned for, what that funding process looks like. How much we're going to raise, and, just really some of the rudimentary processes of preparing for it.
Yeah. It's, well, it's just weird how you get connected. And I was like, well, yeah, hell yeah, I want to hear about this. It's always interesting to hear anybody doing their own thing. And then in this app world or software world, whatever you want to call it, development, for a lot of people, it's just anything online or digital. Or anything that has to do with computers. I found out. I have clients that are like, you don't know how to fix this on my MacBook, while we're sitting there going over stuff. And I'm like, I don't know everything about, I'm good with like front end, and I'm good with marketing, and I'm good with, productivity apps, but like, I don't know back in IT and, stuff like that.
You're not taking apart a computer and reassembling it. And
I come from the business side, and then I learn all the skills, which I think is what makes us a little unusual. But so tell us about SafeKeeping. I thought it was interesting, and that's why I was like, I took 5 seconds to look at it on your site when I got the email about y'all, and I was like, oh yeah, this seems real cool. It seems interesting. What is it? You can do your elevator pitch, or what? How? I'm sure you're sick of it, but the who, what, when, where, why, all that stuff. So one of y'all let it rip.
Sure. So I guess I can kind of tell you our story and where it all began. Noah and I went to Ball State together, and we're in the entrepreneurship program, where it's a very unique program and how it's structured. Basically, you have your junior and senior year to put this business plan together. Mm-hmm. And at the last day of your senior year, you pitch, and it's pass or fail. And they bring outside evaluators in. So not teachers that you have been working with, complete strangers who have knowledge in your field and industry. Mm-hmm. And you pitch in front of them, and they pass or fail you right there. So if you fail, you don't get an entrepreneurship degree. You have a choice of either trying to pitch again next year to get that degree, or having a backup, whether you're a double major in finance. So it's really to kind of have a real life scenario to show what it is like in the real world. So anyways, my junior year, right when we kind of started writing the business plan, I had a personal experience where my grandfather was traveling with the Evansville Ski Club, Southern Indiana Ski Club, and they were out in Colorado. Yeah, of course.
Everybody knows about it. Yeah.
Well, he was skiing out in Colorado, where he had a very unfortunate accident with a snowboarder and had a 3-centimeter brain shift. And because of this accident, he had multiple brain surgeries and was ultimately had to live the remainder of his life in a long-term care facility for 11 months. And during that time, I was about 5 hours away at Ball State finishing up my degree. And I wanted to know what was going on with my grandfather. You know, we were really close. And so my first was really communicating with my mom, my aunts, my grandmother, you know, like, hey, what's going on? Was Grandpa awake today? I know he was going in and out of a coma. He just had a new infection, blah, blah, blah. And through my experience, I learned that it was a really emotional time for my family. And they were just having so many things thrown at them at once. It was really hard for them to convey to me what was going on. And as soon as I found out that process wasn't really adequate for me, I started calling the facility, trying to get updates on my grandfather's care. And through that experience, I experienced really long wait times, being put on hold or brushed off to another nurse who wasn't in direct care of my grandfather. And I was like, gosh, you know, there has to be some way that I can feel engaged in my grandfather's care. And so, you know, did what any college student would do, went on Google. I was like, there has to be an app or something where I can see the doctor's notes, like when he checks in on him or what the nurses are doing. And I couldn't find anything. And I was like, you know what? This seems like a real personal need for me. There has to be other people in my situation. So Noah and I were blessed to be in a program that forced us out of school and to go out and talk to customers. And we did a couple hundred customer interviews, split between, you know, the facility and the end user of the family members, and found out that this was a real problem. There are a lot of family members that felt like they were unengaged in their loved one's care that were in facilities like mine. And, you know, it just led to, well, let me tell you about this story. You know, I have this grandfather in this long-term care facility. I don't know what's going on with him. My family's constantly angry. It's creating tension between us and the long-term care facility staff. And then those times we do get to communicate with the doctor and nurse, so much emotion has built up over a period of time to where it's an unpleasant conversation for both parties. And we started writing this business plan off all the research that we got from these family members, kind of a platform that allows people to get day-to-day updates on health and lifestyle and their loved one in these care facilities. Noah, you can talk a little bit more about the product.
So I'll pause for a second real quick, because this is the idea of this podcast is kind of to be like informative, you know, sometimes interview style, but also like we have a lot of people that listen. We don't have a huge, you know, fan base of listeners, but we do have a good 1,500, 2,000 people, and 1,500, 2,000. Yeah, that's what I said. But the thing about it is a lot of the people that are listening are wanting to do their own thing, and kind of sometimes they don't, I guess, I don't know if it's innate for y'all, but for me, it's always, I don't even think about it like any good idea like this, where you have like what you think can be a brilliant idea. It's one of those things where you're satisfying a need. You had the wherewithal to go, oh, okay, well, I look like a dick to my family that I can't get a hold of him. He doesn't know that I can't get a hold of him. And so there's got to be a better way. And then you did the other thing. So I get a lot of people asking me for advice on, like, I have an app idea, and I just stop them and I go, all right, here's the first two questions I've got for you. Does it exist? And then, are you sure? Because I have people pitching me app ideas and want some advice, you know, like we're at a bar or whatever, or after a stand-up show or something. And like, they'll ask me about it, and then I'll go, okay, well, did you even like look in the app store, or did you like, and you'd be surprised, like most of them don't. And I'm like, okay. And then if it exists, all right, well, why isn't it working? And if it doesn't exist, what are the barriers to make it happen? So I just wanted to kind of throw that in there. I think a lot of people, when they get started on an idea, are you really are you really filling a need?
Right.
That need could be convenience. This need's about communication, really, which in that industry, just let's say healthcare in general, is just horrendous. And it's segmented and fragmented in a million pieces. And so you go that you took a step back and you go, hey, I think there's something here. I don't know how to go about this quite yet, but I think that's kind of where we were kind of getting to.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, for me, it definitely, this thing was kind of a passion project, right? I had family members and high emotion, and this immediately to me kind of stuck out like, I need to fix this. And Noah and I actually are not technical people. We don't code. We knew this was going to be a huge challenge at first. And, you talked a little bit about people jumping into building an app, and it's kind of scary, right? Because it just takes so much time and motivation. But one thing Noah and I were blessed with is when we were in school, we kind of looked at each other and we're like, well, should we go do this? And we're like, yeah, I think so. I mean, we've been broke our whole lives. We're college students. Like, what do we got to lose, right?
Right.
We don't know what it's like to really get a steady paycheck.
Right.
One advantage we had, coming out of the gate that we kind of talk about a lot.
Yeah, I think to your point, Law, is that I think even now after we've been through this whole process, I think one of the scariest things for somebody with a new idea is to like actually get on Google and Google that idea, because like you have this $1 million idea, right? And it's a great idea, but then you think like, I just thought of this, whatever you're doing, you're solving a problem. That's usually how it starts, or how it comes to mind. And then you're like, okay, but there's no way nobody else has thought of this. But then it's even scarier. It's even scarier when you do Google it and nothing comes up, because it's like, oh my God, like, am I actually going to pursue this? And then you have a decision to make. And I think, for us, like Matt just touched on that, the decision was easy. We were fresh out of, or, still in school, had no steady income ever, knew that we had a lot of outside validation, which was important to us. And we had the school to kind of back us and give us advisors and feedback and resources, which goes a really long way. And anytime we talk at a school or anything like that, we always say that we think that, from our experience at least, most college kids don't take full advantage of the resources you have while in school. I mean, you have access to resources that businesses pay hundreds of thousands of dollars a year for, and you have it all for free. So I really, I think we kind of had it easy in that sense, where, we're not 40-year-olds who have wife and kids at home, and we're quitting our day jobs to go start a business that may or may not work. I think at the end of the day, obviously we want, more than anything, we want this to work, but we also understand that no matter what, it's an incredible learning experience. And there was no really better time in our lives to do something like this.
Yeah. I totally agree. A lot of good stuff in there, because I went to Auburn entrepreneurship program there, and it's similar to y'all's. It's avant-garde kind of way, and I think that's the only way to really teach entrepreneurship, is that our professor, who I now call up as my mentor, before I started this firm, I said, hey, if I get into a situation where I'm talking to like a big company that's out of our capacity, let's say, I'm trying to think of some ones locally here, like OSI that owns Outback, or College Hunks moving company. We're a very small house right now, but I don't want to ever turn anything away. Is it cool if I call you up? And he's like, absolutely. And I wasn't like, I don't think I was his favorite student. I just got shit done. And so my thing was like, he would walk in and he would go, okay, you got to write a business plan for a crematorium. And you're like, okay, I guess. And like, he put you with this dude he knew 20 miles outside of the city, and you had to figure it out. with this weird guy that told us
that had a crematorium.
No, literally told us he's been thinking about. He was like probably I don't know, 57-year-old black dude from, rural South that is a good guy, but he creeped us out in the first like 5 minutes by being but in kindergarten, he had been thinking about wanting a crematorium. And I was like, okay, well,
what?
I guess you have to have passion for it. But like, all right. So we actually came up with a kind of a Chipotle quick style fast of just put it in, burn it, get it out the door kind of style. But that's the thing of like, you just gotta figure it out. But we also had a lot of resources at the school that we found out we never did earlier before we were doing these, junior, senior year classes. And then now I can go back and kind of look at, I did the business school online, the distance school with Auburn, but I found out there's a lot of resources there. So it's really strange. And sometimes even if you don't go there, they'll be cool about like trying to help you out. So, a lot of them are public universities. Anyway, so there's that part. And then the other part of just, so like you have nothing to lose at this point. It's just like you said, it's like we don't have, a lot of assets, let's say, be it monetary or not at the moment. And I did a similar thing with stand-up. I booked my own stand-up tour across the country when I was like 24. And then again, when I was 25 with 3 of my buddies. It was the best and worst thing I ever did. But, I knew that wasn't going to be like a colossal money maker, but it was one of those things where I got so much experience. I learned so much about the country. We went to Indiana a lot. Let's see. We went to Bloomington, St. the Biz there. Went to South Bend, and did whatever the bar is right next to the stadium. New Brunswick, Indiana. I've been all over there, man.
That's awesome.
But now I know I have that experience of saying like, hey, y'all live in Indiana. Oh, cool. That's kind of like Mississippi flipped on a map in a lot of ways. You don't think of it as like kind of a really red state, but it is. So like that, there is that thing where, I was in more debt when I got out of those tours, but I got a lot of life experience out of it, and now I'm applying it with this. I didn't have anything to lose either. It was like, okay, I'll go back to LA and live in my friend's garage,
Right.
Yeah. So let's go from that point when you guys are kind of at that decision, like, let's do this, to kind of where we are right now. Cause it seems like I can't really tell by the online presence where y'all are at. It seems like it's still kind of in this, phase 1 area, for lack of a better way of saying it. So y'all tell me.
So, this is my parents' home that I'm in right now. So I still live at my parents' home, which means we haven't made it big yet.
Hey, save money. Yeah.
Everybody always says that, but like, that's not true at all. Racking up credit card debt on a daily basis.
Well, yeah, but like, just because you could have more.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So I guess I'm saving myself from future credit card APRs, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we graduated in May of 2015, began development almost right away, grabbed some beta partners within the first 6 months of graduation. One beta partner is a large hospital-based network here in Indianapolis, or throughout the state of Indiana. And they have 4 long-term care facilities close to where we went to school, about an hour north from Indianapolis. And then Brightstar is one of the largest home health companies in the country, but it's a franchise model. So we're beta testing with a franchisee up in northern Indiana. Mm-hmm. And we began development and realized that we still don't know a bunch of stuff. So we, worked closely with our beta partners to answer a lot of those questions. And all this time, we're also doing biz dev and, acquiring other interest from other providers across the country. as well as trying to build a little bit upon the team and the advisory board. And then we recently, in the last 6 months, we had to part ways with our tech development team, which was another really good learning experience. And it's really, we don't have a lot of, we have really no animosity towards them at all. We both recognize that we made some mistakes, but we ended up with a development firm, another one here in Indy, who has done health IT work in the past. And that did make a world of difference in that sense, because they were able to pick up right where we were, knew exactly what we wanted to build. They kind of just got it right away. So, we're with the previous guys, it was about, a whole year-long build, and we were just about 80% of the way there. And now with these new guys, we're 2 weeks in, and we're 95% of the way there.
Okay.
So
y'all are
world
you're on edge right now. This is this is the exciting time. All right, that's awesome.
Right.
Yeah, exciting and scary.
Yeah, but I mean, the idea is there. That's always kind of concrete, right? This is a solid idea, and you can drive yourself nuts and go and talk yourself out of it, But I'm sure most people you've talked to that you trust their opinion, they're saying that's a really good idea. I'm glad someone's doing that. How is it? So how does it actually work in like a layman's kind of way? What's an example? Like, would the patient doesn't have the app, or the hospital has it, and it's a way to kind of go back and forth that way? Who's making the updates, I guess?
Yeah, great question. So the original idea was that we wouldn't create any additional work for staff, for provider staff. So most long-term care facilities in the country use an electronic medical record system, which stores all of this data that we're sending to patients' families anyway. So the idea is that we'll integrate with those already in place systems where the data already is captured. So it's not creating any additional work, because the nurses are, filling out these EMR forms on a daily basis anyway, and then just pushing those daily notifications to the family members based on what they want to see. Mm-hmm. That's much easier said than done, because you have to integrate with the EMR systems to be able to accomplish that. And EMR systems don't like these third-party guys like us, because they want to hold on to their data as kind of a proprietary asset. And there's a lot of argumentation in courts right now about if that's even legal. But we're still figuring out a scalable process that will get us that data without creating additional work. On the home health side, a lot of them don't use EMRs, or the EMRs that they are using are more willing to work with a third party like us. Mm-hmm. So our home health beta, we're actually taking their whole paper-based process and converting it to an electronic process. So it's basically killing two birds with one stone. It's saying, okay, now everything that you had on paper is now electronic, and you're filling it out once anyway. And then we're also going to send the information that you want to send to family members to them, so that they're not calling you a million times a day asking how the visit with mom was.
Okay. Yeah. I didn't know if it was if you're trying to go through a private hospital on the first kind of area of target audience. Are you going through private hospitals? Because that public part, I assume, would be a nightmare. I'm trying to follow that kind of methodology of your business development. Is it so you are trying to hit that not private practice, but more of the private kind of hospitals or bigger not retirement communities, but care facilities?
Yeah, retirement communities, long-term nursing homes, assisted living facilities, those sorts of clients for us, providers.
Fellas, you're in the wrong state, man. You got to come down here. Like,
we're plotting our move right now. Actually.
I mean, look, I can hook you up with. There's a VC company here. I don't know how y'all's funding has gone, but it's called Florida's Funders. They're out of Tampa, and you'd have to keep I think the deal is they're trying to keep businesses in Florida like this.
Yeah.
But that all that means is have the LLC here.
Or move to warmer, better.
Yeah,
weather.
I mean, look, Florida's not the hub of tech really, but it doesn't really matter where you are. To me, I say it's cheaper living being here than Austin or Denver, or San Francisco.
Oh, yeah.
And you get a little bit more out of that. But I'd say like you have a bigger pool over here. I mean, there's literally just swaths of like weird, not weird. Well, there's one that's weird called the Villages, where I hear there's a lot of old people banging. But it's about 20 miles outside the city. But like, well, I do a joke about old people spreading STDs because retirement communities. But there's a lot of, let's say, market research to be had over here. I guess so what's the steps now? Where are you at? We're doing this on a Friday afternoon, and people are funny about my schedule because they don't think, because their time isn't as important. I don't know. They'd be like, well, why don't you come to this thing tonight? And I'm like, well, I got to work. And they're like, it's Friday night. And I was like, yeah, I
gotta work.
I want to get over this hump for our company. And it's more important to do a lot of this, bullshit work that I need to do, but it's more satisfying. Where are y'all, mindset wise? Are y'all freaking out? Are you fist fighting each other? It's hard to work with just one other person too. I used to have a partner, and it was it'd be like, sometimes it'd be great, sometimes it's like I got ghosted. I don't know if that's been an issue for y'all. Someone told me 50-50 partnerships don't work. I don't know if I believe it or not.
Yeah.
But tell me how it's going right now, and kind of what you're thinking going forward.
So it's just us two right now, other than the tech firm, which is outsourced, and then advisors. And to be honest, we're good friends as well. And I think in that case, it's actually helped a little bit, in the sense that we're good enough friends that we're open with one another. When we have a problem, we speak up. And we've never had we've never even been close to a disagreement that's been like, well, if we don't get this solved, we're going to dissolve the company. You know what I mean? Or if we don't get this solved, I'm walking away, kind of thing. Yeah. And it's kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of cliche to say that we haven't had many big issues, but that's kind of been the case so far. Obviously, when money starts coming in, that's probably when shit hits the fan from time to time. But
and it can work. I didn't mean to make that sound like, hey, here's what's coming around the corner, guys. Like, but it is that thing of like, sometimes you can get so mired in like moving forward. You got to take, I mean, we talked via email. Y'all are going to go to a music festival down here in Florida.
Yeah.
Obviously, like, you're letting your brain breathe, which is something I don't think I did in the beginning of this. So I would just moving forward, just keep moving forward.
Yeah.
And that's not a good, unless you're like Tom Cruise. I don't think that's a good, like, good way to kind of live. Like, I found out, I can't just be a robot. It's not, it doesn't work well.
I think one of the things that we kind of harp on anytime we talk publicly is like that whole idea of making sure you continue to live a life separate from your business. Mm-hmm. I don't think that we would be able to do this at all if we didn't go out on the weekends from time to time and, go to concerts whenever we can. And, we definitely make an active effort to get away from the stress of business and live our lives. I think that's extremely important.
Yeah. It'll help you in a weird way, in the sense that, like, you may discover something in y'all's design on the front end for people at these care facilities, that you may observe something just out at a concert, the way someone uses a different app, you maybe apply that to y'all's software. And so that's how I feel about a lot of stuff. I like to be able to, I have to make myself go take walks and shit without my phone, and like just kind of observe what's going on.
Yeah.
But let's see. I only got a couple minutes left because I've got a call in a little bit. But I guess any advice? Let's do this. Any advice for, let's say there's kids in college that are listening to this, in that same kind of position y'all were, let's say 2014, 2015. What would you say other than, if you're out of school, use the school's resources, as far as what y'all fucked up on initially? Everybody fucks up. So
I think focusing initial funds on product is extremely important. That's one thing that we fucked up.
Meaning what? What does that mean for like?
Meaning,
I know what you mean, but
let's
kind of break that down a little bit.
We dumped money into marketing expenses, travel expenses for conferences, major expenses like that before we even had a product or proven metrics by any means. And I think that looking back on it, we could have saved money that way. I think we could have saved money on attorney fees by going with a cheaper attorney from the start. Not that our attorney did anything wrong at all, but he charges $400 an hour, and we could have done everything that we did for much cheaper than that.
My attorney could hear this and freak out. Yeah.
We could have, we worked out a good startup deal with him too. But still at the end of the day, we have to pay it back at some point. And,
so y'all went out with an idea more than you had something.
I think, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I think the connection went out for a second. I was saying y'all had an idea and you were out there kind of pitching that a little bit more than like being in the garage and just hammering something out that, you're just putting together with what you could do.
Well, I do think, one area where we didn't fuck up was we talked to hundreds of customers. So, and that's pretty much free to do other than whatever the travel expenses are. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's one area where we really excelled. And I think that's why the key reason why we won awards and money through Ball State was because while we were there, we talked to so many people and got such great feedback. But then, once we had that feedback, we had a great framework to go ahead and build the product, and we could have just focused on that. I think we could have grabbed some more early adopters or beta testers from the get-go. I think as many as you can get, to a certain degree is beneficial because it gives you a larger base of metrics to work from. But all in all, we've learned from all of these experiences, and I think that because of that, we'll be obviously better moving forward.
Yeah. You got anything?
Yeah. So, I agree with Noah. Definitely, we get right out of college, and all we had was a couple of wireframes that we showed a big hospital in Indiana, and they bought into it right away. So maybe we got a little chip on our shoulder right away and like, oh, well, we can just go sell this concept, and then execute later, get enough interest and build that. And also you got to consider we're two 24-year-olds gathering some of the most sensitive data in the world. So
right.
I think not everybody can be Steve Jobs, right, and show just of a computer and it not actually work and go sell it. So that was definitely a learning experience. We thought we were both pretty naturally gifted salesmen, and if we put a decent chunk of money into marketing, we can go get that traction that we need. Did to some extent succeed in that, but I think looking back where we are now, I think we'd be a little bit further along if we would have just really been product focused and driven.
Yeah.
And, another learning experience on legal fees for young entrepreneurs. I think this is so important. We're kind of criticized for being so young in a industry like senior care. There's a lot of experienced vets in that field. So we thought, we had to build credibility by getting some top-notch lawyer in Indianapolis, and how everything had to be airtight from the start, which really, there's room to kind of maneuver in the field to bootstrap it and to get to a certain point to where, you have more funds and you can utilize those funds towards, legalities. But all in all, really good that we tried to make it as airtight as possible from the beginning. But I think looking back on it, I think we could have reserved some of those funds for, product development.
Yeah. And I've learned over time from my attorney. I mean, we have a lot of law firm clients, and I've randomly Tampa Bay is feels like the most attorneys, but it's the most advertised metropolis for law firms. Yeah, we put that on our flag, but like, it's one of those things where you're like, you need legal fees, but you're like, all right, if you do legal Zoom or something like that, it's okay, but it's not, that's not airtight.
Yeah, right.
And then when you're trying to make almost a PR splash with a big time attorney, you'll realize, like, unless he's got some skin in the game or something like that, and he is one of those guys that does more than just is an attorney in the area, you might not get the kind of the PR or social capital or whatever out of that. But that is an important thing for a lot of app developers. I have an IP attorney that I work with, and he, we're talking to a lot of his audience is really y'all, people like y'all. It's like, they don't know how messed up they are if they have an app that goes for a while or software that goes for a while and the stuff's not trademarked, copywritten. Like, people just let you go with that sometimes and then wait to sue you.
Right.
So it's one of those things where you have to kind of be a part-time attorney, like, on your own, before you talk to them, so you're not wasting their time. Same with like my accountant. I'll do as much as I can on my own, get it as organized as I can, then give it to him, so I'm not wasting his time.
Exactly.
Well, look, guys, when y'all come into Florida, if you somehow make it to Tampa, let me know. We'll have you in this studio, and then if not, we'll have y'all on again, because I want to hear how this goes, as it goes, man.
Yeah, sounds great. This was really fun. Definitely the first time we've ever done a podcast. So we'd love to come check out the operation when we're down there in a couple months.
Pop that
Definitely.
podcast cherry. Yeah.
That's right.
I'm popping cherries all over the place.
I got a quick question for you.
Go for it.
We didn't know Balaker was a comedian. So
you didn't?
What's the difference?
Shit, I outed him. Oh no.
What's the difference in comedic styles between you and Balaker?
I'd have to remember. I know I'm a little bit younger than him, so I was pretty green when I was in LA doing stand up, and not a lot of life experience. So my stuff is pretty observational. Like, I did a lot of I still do it, but I like talk about like air mattresses for like 20 minutes.
Yeah, right.
I kind of get
Jerry Seinfeld type humor. Gotcha.
Yeah, a little bit. I'm very ranty now. Maybe back then I was closer to like I don't know. It's tough to that's another, like doing your own business. You're constantly like, who am I? What am I? What is our voice? And like, it changes over time, obviously. But like, when you're really young in stand up, like, I sounded like Ron White too much because I had to slow down, and pause and kind of take my time, or else I'd trip over words, or or it just, sometimes you take a beat here and it's funnier. I used to like to build the silence a little bit because it made people feel anxious. But you do if you watch Ron White, he'll do a story, and then it'll be like a 90 seconds setup with little baby jokes on the way, and then it'll just be machine gun, it'll be punchline, and then tag.
I love Ron White.
Yeah. So
don't be afraid of the cheese wheel, right?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Girth. I'm all about girth. I say it's like two skull cans on top of each other. But Matt, I remember he was really smart, almost to the point where you're like, I know I felt like he would be dumbing down his set a little bit, for not to say like he's an elitist when he was up there, but you know, if I got into like R-square confidence, you know, regression charts I learned when I was at a mutual fund company, that doesn't apply to everybody. No one, I can't even explain that in a lot of ways. If y'all got up on stage and started talking about like, oh, well, here's why the JavaScript doesn't work on the website, it's like, who gives a shit? It's like really in the minutia. So I remember he was really smart to the point where I was like I know his favorite was Greg Giraldo, and he has a book coming out with it. And I felt like he was in that kind of wake, like really intelligent, maybe almost too, it became hard for him to, I have this problem a little bit too, became hard to kind of be concise or, you know,
Sure.
or kind of play it down for everybody. But you never know. The shows I did with him were probably shit if I really looked at it. You know, you have people not paying attention. If the Lakers were on, you were kind of fucked if you're in a sports bar. So, but yeah, good times, great oldies. I'm 2 minutes late for my next meeting, but y'all, I'll tail in this with some kind of outro and give y'all plugs and whatnot. And hope to see y'all down in Florida, man.
All right, man. Great to meet you, Law, and hopefully we'll see you soon.
All right, y'all. See ya.
All right.
Yeah, thank you very much.